Okay, welcome to the Tuesday live stream. And today we're going to be conjecturing, hypothesizing, creating false rumors, just doing whatever we want, talking about Logic Pro. Hopefully, we have some people jumping on, asking some questions, because, that's what we do here. This is the community where we get together and we talk about this and have a little fun with Logic Pro. We're in update season. We're going to be getting an update sooner or later, either a small or a big one. And let's make up some new rules for what we want from this. It's clear. I was doing some research last night. I typically do a little research before I jump on a live stream because I want to actually have something to say. And I was curious about the last update we've had for the Logic Remote app. If you're watching this, guess, without looking, guess how long it has been since we've had an update for the Logic Remote app for iOS. Anybody want to guess? I know we have a few of you watching right now. Who wants to take a shot and guess how long it's been since we've updated that app? Anybody? Just throw it in the chat. I'll give you a minute. Needless to say, I was surprised. I had no idea that the people who invented iOS and the iPad and the iPhone and bought Logic and then created this app for it, that it would go this long without even like a small bug fix or incremental update. And so I was a little surprised by that. And then I went and I looked at the last actual update we've had for GarageBand on iOS. Sometimes I talk about this as being kind of the model for Logic Pro. They try all these new features in GarageBand for iOS. And who wants to guess how long it's been since we've had an update in GarageBand? It's longer than the Logic Remote app. Let me put it that way. And there's a few of you watching who doesn't know and wants to guess how long it's been for the updates for the Logic Remote app and for the GarageBand iOS app. Take a second. Just shoot in the dark a little bit. I'm going to wait a second while you type in your guesses. So if you're just joining, we're trying to get you to guess how long it's been since they've updated the Logic Remote app for iOS and GarageBand for iOS. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you in just a second. They're both under a year. That's a clue. They're both under a year, but I was shocked that GarageBand for iOS has not been updated in over 11 months. That's almost a year. Now, I'm guessing. It's very likely that we're going to see an update for GarageBand tomorrow. And immersive, no, there's not an update. We're just talking about what we want from the update. That thumbnail I put on the live stream video is one that is homemade, and I was trying to make it obviously not real. It's not supposed to be clickbait, but we are talking because we're expecting an update shortly. But we're complaining right now about how slow it is in terms of the update cycle right this moment. Because GarageBand iOS, it's been 11 months. The Logic Remote app has been 10 months since an update of any sort. And if you read through the comments on the Logic Remote app, there are a ton of issues with it. They're not real issues. They are issues of Apple's design. meaning if you have an older version of Logic, you can't pick and choose which iOS Logic remote app you're going to be using. And so you have to install the latest one for that device. And it may be that it's non-compatible with your Logic Pro if you're running an older machine and can't update. And so it becomes like a useless system. And so what we're dealing with is this whole system is so smart and stupid simultaneously. But I was just shocked that it's been almost a year for those two apps without any sort of incremental small or large update. Now, that being said, tomorrow's the release party, so to speak, for the new iPhone and iOS. And so those apps are going to get updates because they'll need the updates to run efficiently on the new system. The biggest question, of course, is whether or not they're going to throw in new features. Because if they just do an operational update to make it run on the new iOS, but they don't change or fix anything else, that's a problem. I mean, we're looking at, kind of the flagship audio music production tools that Apple has out there. And if they're going to ignore them for a year, I mean, that's like the first moment that I consider actually like, why am I still using Logic, right? I love Logic. I use Logic all the time. But at some point, if they're not going to even take care of what they clearly consider their flagship, with the iPhone and, GarageBand iOS, then what does that say about what they're doing with Logic Pro, which again, they haven't updated all that much either. So as a reminder, the last two updates from Logic, really the last two bigger updates, were Atmos, bringing in immersive audio, and then they added some packs, some creator packs that were originally in GarageBand iOS and that they moved over to Logic. And so we haven't had really anything substantially new in Logic in over a year as well. Spatial audio, can we count that? I don't know. I don't count that very much because I think that, it was functionality we already could have before this. It wasn't tied in to Logic directly. So now it's a part of the actual Logic software, but it still feels a little bit like an add-on that they just integrated in. So we haven't had any real new core functionality in this software in a long time. And I'd love to know in the comments how many of you watching still have your favorite bug or multiple bugs in Logic. How many of you have one or more things that doesn't work properly that you wish was fixed? Go ahead and put that in the comments. I'm curious to see. Because certainly, I know a lot of people have them. It's pretty rare that I talk to somebody and they're like, no, it's working perfect for me. I will say the way I run Logic, I would, in the past 6 months, I've maybe had it crash on me twice, where it just full on crashed and I had to reboot and restart and hope that I didn't lose any progress. Anybody who has like nostalgic feelings for the old Logic, it crashed a lot more previously, for me at least. So I don't have a lot of crashes, but I certainly have some things that I wish were different, that would be updated or changed or improved upon. So that's what I'm looking for all of you in the chat who are watching. Let's have a conversation about this. Let's actually talk about some of the things that you're experiencing that you wish were different in the software, knowing that we're about to see an update. Now, I wouldn't say that Apple has completely shut it down its wing on these tools. I mean, we did get some new content in GarageBand just very recently, but it was a content upgrade, not an actual app upgrade. So they put on two new things. I'm loading them up so I get them right. One of them is Katy Perry, a new, well, like a remix song for that. Let me just create. I've got my iPad right down here, so they're both Live Loops projects. Um, and then 17 had a remix session as well. And these are for the Apple Store, workshops you can go do. So these are for the Today at Apple remix session. So they added some content there, which is interesting. Um, they're the most boring things that I could ever see because they don't even use any of the capabilities of the live loops that are cool. It's just straight vertical. Everything's the exact same length vertical. There's no MIDI. There's no effects. It's just some basic audio files. They're all, the stems from the projects. So you have a little bit of control, but not much. And let's see. Turtle Theory says piano roll gets all out of sync when playing a clip that's in a take folder. But this isn't the worst bug, I guess. I don't know. That sounds like a pretty horrible bug. Um, I actually haven't, I don't use take folders that often uh, like that, but that sounds like a bug that exists for sure. Um, let's see, LA Winter. Anyone tried the new Wave Studio Rack that can load third-party VSTs yet? No. I mean, I've seen some stuff, but I want to pull that open on a new browser page because I want to look exactly what you're talking about here. Wave Studio Rack. Let me just type. There it is. I clicked the wrong place. Oh, B and H. That's where I pulled up first, but that's not where I want to go. Let's see. It says it makes Logic crash pretty quick. Oof, not surprised. Labor Day, all plugins $29.99. Except if it's like any random Tuesday, then it's also $29.99. Ooh, I see what this is. Yeah, no, I have read about this a little bit. Um, it says it's free, so I guess I need to try it out and actually. Are you running in Rosetta or not, LA Winter? Interesting. Does open up some track sidechaining for bus sends. Yeah, I imagine it does. Okay. Let's see. Erg. Don't know. I'm going to have to check it out. I'm not going to do it live, especially if you're saying it's crashing stuff, but I will definitely check this out because that looks cool. I mean, I've seen a lot of wrappers and things of various plugins. There was a few that were I was trying back. I don't know. I'm guessing it was the early 2000s. I can't even remember. FX Expansion, maybe. We were using plugin wrappers for that type of stuff, and I mean they went away. That I haven't seen them recently, but it always was sketchy at best. Um, yeah, but I get what you're saying there about ducking the reverb and delay inside uh, the same track side chaining. And then Turtle Theory says, my main gripes nowadays aren't about bugs. Um, they rather functionality and workflow. Logic still limited compared to Ableton and Bitwig. Also, the browser doesn't support fuzzy matching. Um, I don't mind limitations in any of my workflow as long as I can do my workflow as needed. But I find there's a ton of, well, Ableton and Bitwig are, the two DAWs that are really different than most. I guess FL Studio kind of fits in there a little bit with this object-based interface, but um, one of the big strengths of something like Ableton or Bitwig is that you have a lot of flexibility in your organization and how things are all laid out, whereas you don't have that nearly as much. Even in the live loops mode, it's like it looks like Ableton, but it's not. And so I don't find necessarily that having those features means that Logic is limited. Certainly, there are things you can do in Logic that are harder in Ableton. So I mean, it all goes back and forth. It's fun to make sound toys, plugins, multi-band. Now I'm definitely gonna have to go through this. But you're saying it's crashing it, so I don't know if you've convinced me or not. You know what I mean? Oof. It's gonna make me do questions to get this. I'm on the Waves website right now. Um, I don't know why. I don't know why. Waves is an interesting company, but we'll check it out. I don't even know. They want to know how old I am for this, but we'll see. I'm still getting this. I'm gonna try it out. They made me answer some questions to get the plugin for free. Okay, it's registered to my account, so now, but it doesn't take a lot of plugins to make it crash. Okay, cool. You think it's an incompatibility, or do you think it's a power function? Do you know what I mean with that question? By the way, I hate it when a company like Waves releases a rack. Ooh, yeah, I need to upgrade. Let's get that off the screen. Where I hate it when like a third party company actually does more for your software than your software does. Whatever. Okay, let's see. Getting signed back in. I have two different Waves accounts, which is kind of a pain. Um, it's going to make me close Logic. So you all get to see my desktop for a minute. We're testing this out, though. I'm in. We're going to go all in on getting this going here. Okay. Logic. Back open. Ooh, I love how snappy that is for Reels. Okay, so let's do Waves. Ooh. This is what happens when you get old. I can't. No, 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 no. Why is it not? It has not showed up. Unless I'm missing it. Well, I'll find it here in a second. I think sometimes Logic, when you install a new plugin, it doesn't show everything up right off the bat. But I don't think I'm missing it. So, like, I don't think I'm just overlooking it. Let's do plugin manager. Let's do it. I'm going to make it rescan everything. That seems dangerous to me. Not dangerous, just dangerous on a live stream. Okay, I don't know where it is. Um, Akash is asking about this. I'm on 10.7.4. That's the most recent version. Okay, let's quit it again. Still not showing up. And you have to scan the VSTs. I don't even know if I have any on this computer. Oh, there it is. It's going to do it now. I don't even know if I have any non-native to Logic plugins installed right this moment. I'm going to have to look and maybe find some to download. I keep a pretty tight ship with my plugins. So you can see I don't have that many, just 188. So pretty small group. I'm pretty picky about the ones that I use. Start it. And I know that there are some that are not good, but I have them on here anyway right now. Let me just make sure they're not trying to turn on still. Done. Okay, I think we're fine. Oh man. I'm gonna have to. I don't know. I can't. I don't know why. Let's do waves only. Oh, maybe I didn't actually. That's gonna be a pain. I see what I did. I see what I did. I know what I did. We're gonna get it here in a second. So now you're getting to watch the fun of installing Waves products as a live stream. It's everybody's like dream, I think. This is like your dream stream. But we're getting it because when you're in the Waves Central to do this, it's like I only install Waves plugins like once a year, right? I clicked on the button that said, the authorization for it, but not the actual download and install. So that was my bad. They're the three that I was missing. So let's hope they actually authorize. Okay, so far something. Studio Rec stereo right there. You piece of junk. Says successfully validated, but it did not want to load. Okay, so I think we're just going to leave this behind in about 10 seconds because I just tried to put it on a track after it passed authorization. Who's ready for Logic not to have this kind of issue anymore? Jeez. If it loads up now, no. Boom. Okay. Forget it. Oh, it's free. What do you expect, I guess, is the code or the lesson here. Oh, yeah, it doesn't work on most systems, so let's give it away. Oh, thanks, Waves, for giving me a non-functional plugin. Okay, so such is life sometimes with this stuff. I probably can figure it out, but I'm not gonna be able to figure it out now. I'll restart the system after the stream and see if restarting it does anything. I'm running in Rosetta mode already, so I don't know why or what that's all about. Its Studio Rack is version 14, so that should be working with all of the silicon stuff. Who knows? It's just one of those things that's, I guess, typical Waves. We will, but I really want to turn any plugin into multiband. I mean, that sounds cool. So even with some of my existing plugins that I just have VST versions of, it should be able to turn into a multiband. Won't do with Logic plugins, obviously, but we'll try it out. I'll see if I can't get it working later on, because if I can, then I'll do a video about it, but it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. Okay, so what else? I mean, what else are we looking at here in terms of, I mean, that alone. I wish I had a multi-band plugin set up for Logic. It's like we can break audio on an individual track apart in several different ways. For instance, if I do an EQ here on a track, I can come down into the processing mode and say I want to process just the mid, which is stuff in the center, or I can do side, and that'll be the stuff that's not the same. So anything that's the same in the left and right channel gets ignored, and everything that's different gets processed. So I can break things apart this way. Theoretically, we could create an interesting multi-band technique. I've done this a few times. I don't do it that often because it's such a pain. Let's do new track, duplicate settings, and I'll do it 3 times. Right, and I'm going to put these 3 tracks into a track stack of the summing variety, right? And then on track number 1, or actually we'll just do it like this. I'll just do all 3 here. And let's do dynamics multipressor, right? So we're here. And let's do 3 bands for each of these. So that way that they're all the same. All right, so 3 bands, just like this. And I'm going to solo this band on this one, this band on this one, and this band on this one. So now I've got 3 bands of the same instrument. I don't know how loud this is going to be, so just be ready. Ooh, I got some clicks and pops. Probably because I'm using my streaming setup. Let's go to just change the buffer. Right? So now I've got the synth broke out into 3 different bands. When I play them together, a little quirky thing happening. I think that's because of the stream for some reason. Let's delete the drummer for a minute. But without the streaming thing in place, you end up with the 3 bands, and then I can just put a processor on this one, and process those 3 bands separately. So it ends up being about the same. It's kind of like a DIY multi-band split hack in Logic. It works. I've gotten it to work a few times. Let's see. Cool. But that works. So I think this workflow, though, a lot of applications actually already, not a lot, but a number of applications already have this built into each track. Studio One being one of the prime examples. Studio One is amazing when it comes to processing in a like splitting things out by frequency bands. It's built in. And I wish that we had that here in Logic, because there are times that I would actually use it. And so I think that would be interesting. Are we going to get features like that? I don't know. Certainly something's going to have to change at some point. Here's one of the things I think about. Now that we have computers which are significantly more powerful than Logic. So I'm using the Mac Studio Ultra. It's nearly impossible in a mix to ever hit the ceiling on this thing. It's fast, it's powerful, it has everything you'd ever need, right? And so Logic can't do more than the computer can typically. There are a couple examples where we found the bottlenecks. When you have an open channel, you can't have an audio stream split across the different threads of your processor. Okay, so that means if we want to do a lot with one channel live input, that it's going to hit the max on that one thread, because just adding another thread doesn't fix that problem. And so we found a limitation of Logic that doesn't match the power of the computer. And so the more power that they give us hardware-wise, the more apparent some of these limitations of the software are. And then they have to do something about it eventually. I mean, they have to, because this isn't one of those things where you could say, you know what, hardly anyone's ever going to do it that way. Well, maybe nobody will ever do it that way. But it is a limitation in some ways. Under certain circumstances. So I really, I'm running not at a high sample rate right this moment. It's unlikely that I'm going to be able to, I mean, look at that. It just flew right up to the top. Oh, I love you, Logic. I mean, I'm not asking you to do very much at all. Why don't I do this real quick just for the sake of this? Let's do bass, and let's just have it be software instrument loops. Okay, cool. And we'll pull that up just to give me some MIDI without having to play it. There we go. Come on. Oh, why? Oh my gosh, something is happening here. That's annoying. It wasn't letting me copy. So let's just loop that. There was a bug just now. I don't know why I couldn't copy that file up there for a minute. It was stuck. Anyway, so delete. Let's do a new drummer track for a second. So all the bands, you'll notice my processing threads jump way down. There's no live input happening or anything. And so if I go back to this, so I understand that it needs some power to be able to do that, but I was getting like clicks and breakdowns because of it. And so three little retro synths through a track stack should not have caused that issue at all. And yet here we are with that issue. So, I think that it's clear that the core engine of Logic has some work that it needs, and it's not going to, it's not going to suffice with some of this stuff happening. The performance meter, we shouldn't be hitting this sitting on just what we're sitting on right here. There's no way that that makes any sense whatsoever. And so we've got to find a way to spread that out differently across the threads. Maybe you can put one instrument across multiple threads. Now, every time I say that, someone who understands programming says, you don't know what you're talking about. You're an idiot. And I said, well, maybe, but it doesn't mean that we can't find some solution that's going to work as we spread this out. It has to at some point. Maybe we break it into smaller chunks, and the sound engine of something is on one, and then it literally passes it through to another. There's got to be a way to do that. You can't tell me that it's impossible. Okay, so there's that particular issue that we're going to be facing. So these things are going to put pressure on Apple to figure out what their plan is with this. Do they want to spend the time to make this right? Do they want to keep on putting Band-Aid after Band-Aid on this? But the software limitations are showing more and more as the computers get more and more powerful, because when a computer scales way up on power and what Logic does in this one area can't go any further, then that gap becomes more and more noticeable. Sounds like I've got the air conditioning turning on. It's like crazy warm this time of year. We're looking at like 97 and above for the next few days. So we're having a lot of heat fun here. I know some of you, if you're in certain parts of California or other places, are much hotter. So I hope you're staying cold or cool. But for Denver this time of year, this is pretty ridiculous. 2 years ago, this very week, we had a day that got to 98 degrees, which is not that hot. And then it went down to a high of 35 the next day, and we had a blizzard. I wish that was going to happen this year, but it was a difference of greater than 30 degrees. It fell in one day, and then it went down below freezing overnight the next night, because that's when we got all the snow. Crazy weather, this weather stuff. We have as much knowledge of weather as we do about processing threads and doing multi-thread processing in Logic Pro. I think that we're equally ignorant apparently on both fronts. So, but every software has this kind of thing. You can't tell me that Pro Tools doesn't have issues. I remember issue year after year after year with them. Even Ableton has a number of limitations, and dear goodness, don't try to convince me that even though Reaper is, constantly customizable, updated, has a great community, that there aren't issues. Because every time someone says to me, they say Reaper is updated so fast. Every time, like 100 people have the same bug, it's like just a matter of hours or days or whatever before it's fixed. It happens all the time. All I hear is that they're having bugs all the time that have to be constantly fixed. So you can't convince me in any universe that Reaper is like perfect somehow. It does have a very responsive team, but it sounds like a horrible way to work, to have bugs all the time that have to be fixed all the time. Have fun. have fun. But I'm not claiming that Logic is better in that area. We have a lot of bugs too, and they don't ever get fixed. So it's definitely a mixed bag with this world of software that we live in. Okay, so small group, and we've gone off target a few times, but I love how much you're all involved. Gigadeath, you're amazing. Thank you. Which trick last time allowed you to write a new song? Tell me about which trick it was, because I remember you saying something that you had learned, but I don't remember right this very second what it was that you had gotten. Oh, look at my threads. I've got one that is spiked all the way to the top. I am not doing anything complicated right now. Ah, I don't know what is happening with that right there. It's like it just got stuck. Push play and it goes away. Oh my gosh. I love this thing. I love how everything is on my toes. Oh, my shortcut's targeting the right window. That's right. I do remember that. The blue line that surrounds where you're sending your information. But yeah, that is a perfect. So I think Logic is an amazing tool. Um, I think most pieces of software are like miraculous. That being said, um, it is incredible how much you have to know about some of these things in order to use them at a high level. There's a lot to these software things that you would never know about. For instance, this is something that I'm asked regularly about, the performance meter, and they're like, "How do you get to that?" And I'm like, "Oh, good question." Let's look at the key commands for this for a second. Performance meter, right? There is the ability to use a keyboard shortcut to show that. You see what is assigned by default? Nothing. It's not assigned to anything by default. So you either have to teach somebody how to create a keyboard command, which by all accounts is a lesson for anybody. It's not necessarily just straightforward. Or you have to show them, because this is the default would be one of these like this, right? You have to teach them how to click on this one arrow pointed down, go to custom or customize it, and then you'll see the CPU thing right there. Then you have to know how to double click on it. You have to actually it's just single click. No, it's double. And so you have to there's 3 or 4 steps in any direction just to see the full performance meter. You have to be like a Logic Pro mastermind in order to use some of these things. Globus says, I missed the function on off all plugins. You can sign in a shortcut, bypass all plugins, but not vice versa. Vice versa. That reminds me of another one of my favorite ones is using the V key to hide everything instead of turning on and off. I know you were saying turn on and off, but if you click the V key, it hides everything for a second so you can see your screen, and then you can push the V key and bring it all back. That's there are so many useful things, but you literally have to be an encyclopedia of knowledge about some of these tools. They've really tried. So GarageBand is the closest thing I can think of to being more intuitive in terms of most of the features you'd want than any other application. I really believe that. I know that not everybody agrees with that, but if I pull that up, they can use it. The reason I know this or feel this way is because my teenagers use GarageBand, and they don't have, they have some musical training, but they don't have musical tech training. And they just went in and explored and figured it out. And you can't do that as easily with so many other pieces of software. I've tried to say if they wanted to use Logic, and they look at it and they try and they're like, I can do what I need to do in GarageBand. And they go back there and they create exactly what they want, and then they're done. So that says to me something about the intuitiveness of the app as opposed to logic. And why, if we have the ability to create something that's more intuitive, that gets us further, why haven't we started adapting those things to these other platforms? One of them is the outrage of the average logic user who would feel like it somehow lessened their experience just because it was more user friendly for people. I mean, I can't tell you, I know there are a lot of people who are like, they enjoy the fact that they can use it at a high level when others might not be able to. The same way that if you're driving down the street and someone tries to pass you and you try to block them, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't, that mentality I don't think is always conducive to being in a musical and community. Why wouldn't we want things to be easier to use? So I feel like we have some work to do to grow as humans in this world a little bit. But anybody, if they update this like Logic, like they did Final Cut, um, and Final Cut a few years ago when they went to 10, changed the whole interface, and everybody quit using it for a period of time. And now everyone's coming back because they realize that Adobe Premiere is more buggy and worse in some ways. And so now they're trying, um, is it Dante or whatever the other, I can't remember, Da Vinci. That one everyone's switching to, but then they're like, well, I want to do 360 and ambisonics, and then they're like, oh, so they have to switch again. It's like they're coming back to Final Cut again because Final Cut finally got all the features in. But let me tell you, I had a hard time with the previous version of Final Cut. It was very complicated for me as an audio engineer. The new Final Cut, I could go in there and do so much so easily, and I didn't have to become like a full video editor producer. I could do so much of it, and it made all my projects better. And so it's like, why was that such a horrible thing? Well, it like evens the playing field a little bit, and people hate that, I suppose. Um, So Gigada says, I asked it before, but I think it was not clear. I want to toggle between two tracks. So one is muted and the other one is not. Yeah, let me think about that for a second because I know exactly what you're talking about. Um, let me, I'm going to look at the preferences for a second because I think if someone else knows it and shouts it out first, that's okay. But it's like I know exactly how to do this in Pro Tools. I don't remember if it was ever possible in Logic. So I'm going to look real quick. Give me a second. What? Because I'm gonna see if I can't figure it out real quick. Man, what? Okay, I'm just pulling off to the other screen because I can see it a little bit easier. Solo mode. Does not. Option. Man, this is, I don't know. Let me try these out real quick. I know some of you are like, what the heck? No, that's not it. Oof, I'm gonna have to figure, I'll have to look at it. Toggle channel strip solo. That's just doing that. Clear recall solo. Wow. How many keys? This is saying clear solo, recall solo, control option, command S. That's just going back and forth between everything being soloed. I don't know if there's a way. I know in Pro Tools there's a way. We use it in post-production all the time. But I don't know. I'll have to look that up. Because I think I've looked for this before and never found a clear way to do it. So that means to me it probably isn't a way to do it. Oof. So maybe you can find a workaround with it, but I don't know. Okay, so IP, hi. Seriously feel that live loops mode needs an update so that it's more apt to do live gig with 10 or more songs instead of just one. Yeah, I think we've talked about this before. It's we need like a live loops function in main stage, so you could set up a whole bunch of stuff in Logic and then port it over for performances in main stage. Yeah, I agree with that. So it is a feature request to Apple. And it's like so Gigadeath, it's actually a good feature. That's a standard feature. One that allows you to easily to do it. You know what I mean? So it shouldn't be. Ooh, that works kind of right. Am I doing it? So let me read what you said one more time. I mean, I guess it works. If you just click on the solo button while holding down the option key, it deactivates the other solo and just solos the one you clicked on. Right? So, I mean, that kind of works. I don't know if it's as efficient as you'd like it, but holding down the option key lets you do the solo. And then just move it. Everything else gets unsoloed as you click on the new one. Maybe? So option solo click. Cool. Well, we're about 4 or 5 minutes away from this. I try to go about 60 minutes on these particular streams. So if you have other questions, it's a great time to ask as we start to wrap up here. What we're looking for tomorrow, I might do another stream tomorrow after they make the big announcement, depending what happens. I doubt they're going to do a Logic update tomorrow. I don't even think we're getting OS 10 update tomorrow. It's unlikely. That's probably going to come later in the month or early next month, and then we'll get the Logic, the bigger update. We might get a smaller one. We're due for a point upgrade. And so we're due for that shortly, the 10.7.5. And then we'll get like the 10.8 or the 11 in the next like few months. But tomorrow we're going to probably get some sort of GarageBand / Logic remote, either just to work on the new version of iOS, or it could be a bigger one. I don't know specifically. It's all guessing at this point. As I said at the beginning, it's been 11 months since GarageBand iOS was updated and 10 months since the Logic Remote app was updated. And so we're really due for those. I mean, that's like ancient technology now on the iPad, and the iPad Pro can run, not even theoretically. I know somebody at Apple has Logic on their iPad. It's not even a question. It's just a matter of switching a little button and then using it. Because of the way the Silicon Universal stuff is programmed, they can do it. We're not able to do it, but somebody can. And so we need to know next, like, how they're going to harness all this power. And it's just a matter of time before they let that trickle to us, but they're such gatekeepers of this. I think they're so afraid of failing or having something change that affects everything that they don't do it, and so they're so careful. And that to me is a shame, because Apple at one point was pushing boundaries. When they released the first iPhone, on stage, the thing barely worked. Steve Jobs had to basically hold it together with duct tape as he was doing that, and so I miss riding the line like that, like the edge of disaster. It's gotten too safe, and it shows up in places like this with Logic, where it's like that's low on the totem pole anyway. They're not selling as many versions of Logic as they are iPhones. And so we're always getting the trickle down effect. They put things in GarageBand, it makes a splash, and then we get it later in Logic. And so the more they push and stop being so slow and hesitant, the better for all of us. And Gigadith, by the way, thanks for the beer and ice cream money. Um, you're one of the best supporters of this channel, so I really appreciate that. Rodri says, what are your thoughts on Hackintosh? I know someone who does it professionally. I'd say for those who know what they're doing, I've only heard good things. Um, if you don't know what you're doing, then you need somebody who you can call when things don't go well, because invariably things are going to go sideways at some point, and it's probably an easy fix. Like somebody can be like, oh yeah, just blah, 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 blah. And you're like, whoa, just come over and do it for me. But if you know what you're doing, I mean, it's possible. Um, it's explicitly against your user agreement of the software, but it's what it is. If it works, it works. I understand the money piece of it. If they're cheaper and very powerful and customizable, then that really is a draw to people. So I'm pretty sure the European Union is going to be making a law in the near future, which makes it so Apple can't require you to install their software just on their own hardware anyway. Um, I think that European Union is really forward thinking about a lot of the technology things happening. And it's scary because they're telling companies how to run their businesses. But on the other hand, I'm tired of buying a new cable every single time I get a new device. And it's like they've changed the format once again. It's like all of that stuff is ridiculous. So um, I will say, in terms of the Hackintosh stuff, I mean, you could get an M1 Mac Mini with 16 gigs of RAM, the integrated stuff, which works really well if you have the big enough hard drive, and it's not that much more money or it's probably cheaper than a Hackintosh. And for Logic Pro, you're going to be set for a long time. We're going to get the new M2 Mac Minis this year, and they'll be just a performance upgrade without any form factor or feature upgrade. And those will be a little bit better. But you're still looking at, like $1,000 for a really good Logic computer that can do almost everything. If you need more than Logic, then Hackintosh may be the way to go. But anyway, I digress. As with all things, computers don't last forever, and you'll be spending more money anyway. Oh, so if you're into film scoring and orchestral stuff, then more RAM is that is the one exception to the M1 Mac Mini. Um, the Ultra that I have, I mean, it's incredible what that thing can do. So let me make a new track here. So I'm not even using the Opus right now. I'm going to be re-upping my registration shortly. So I just have the East West Play plugin on here, And it's like, okay, so low brass, key switch, the full caboodle for the low brass section, replace. Um, has to just look for the drive. Why is that going? Oh, so it was really fast after a second. With the full orchestra, it's still that fast. I mean, this thing for orchestral stuff is blazing. So let's do strings, diamond. Let's see, the full strings, long. Just do one of these. Replace it. Takes 1 second just to kind of orient itself. Then the actual loading is that fast. I mean, dang, it's so fast. I'm excited to do the Opus plugin with the orchestrator because that thing, it's going to just fly through all of those presets. This thing is seriously intense. Okay, I'm out of time. Thanks everybody for watching. And we'll be doing more of these. I think midday is the answer, between 12 and 2 Mountain Time, which is it's just after 2 o'clock in Denver. And I think the daytime seems to be a better time. I've tried morning and evening recently to try to do more streams, but those end up being some pretty small crowds. And so I appreciate all of you being here. And probably, depending on what happens tomorrow with the update, if anything happens at all, because there's no guarantee of anything happening, then tomorrow I'll do a live stream after the presentation, and we'll talk about what has been released, what it means for all of us, and we'll commiserate that Logic is still on 10.7.4 for yet another month or two. So we'll get there. But thanks again, everybody, and I will talk to you all later. See ya.